So, you want to be an architect? You think the hard times are behind you? You want to make a difference in the world? You want to build beautiful structures and make your mark? It's nice to have dreams, but what's the reality?
I remember being in uni and my lecturer saying, you'll all be sued at one point, it's just the extent and the severity that you'll be sued. And it's like, oh God.
That's why all architects and professionals have insurance, is because problems aren't always foreseeable.
What Dino doesn't know is that rather than viewing insurance as a safety net, his insurance policy may not completely protect him. There are a range of risks associated with architectural practice that he'll have to face. These fall into avoidable and unavoidable risk categories. As you can see, you fall into the avoidable risk category. Did you know that you were a risk?
If we're such a risk, why do architects hire us in the first place?
There's no point in having 5 chiefs on a project or 5 chiefs trying to run a project.
So there's always going to be different niches for people to fill.
It takes a little time to work out every person's individual ability, but once we've got that, we then assign work onto teams that best suits their ability.
So, what kind of things will we be doing?
In this office, we typically apportion them design and documentation of low-risk tasks such as signage or joinery items, project administration, so document control and assistance in contract admin.
Students will probably typically get the roles in the lower end of the project, documentation, often the dog's body, if you like.
So students, for instance, will typically come on in an early design stage. They'll be helping with documentation of the development application drawings, sometimes design options, marketing plans, a lot of the presentation work, and depending on the project, some of the initial design work.
Rarely students will get thrown into the deep end, which they get into the difficult parts of managing contractors or clients.
Due to the rigorous registration process of architecture, services produced by you in practice are expected to be in accordance with the standards of the reasonably competent architect, despite the fact that you may be less qualified.
There's a lot of responsibility in taking on a student.
If people without the experience are given too much responsibility that they either can't handle and it's a stressful situation for them, or the expectations of the clients exceed their ability to deliver.
What are the risks we should be aware of?
There's essentially millions of tiny little decisions that are made during one building being built, and you can't control all of them, so you do have to rely on the professional's expertise. Probably the biggest risk in building is documentation, so the quality of what you draw.
It can have definite ramifications if there's a mistake made.
No matter how much and how diligently and how thoroughly I coordinate consultants' documentation during the documentation phase, DD, CD, it can come to site and you end up back at square one where you've got terrible details being built on site because things have changed and consultants have forgotten the importance of why things are coordinated the way they are. And
the biggest risk for us is a change of client program, because either a prolongation or an acceleration, both of them have risks. The acceleration being the bigger one, where the clients expect the same amount of work to be done in a much shorter time, even though they may have already changed the brief several times. And we've got 2 projects in this office that are notorious for that. The end date hasn't changed. In fact, the builder's on site, and yet the client is changing design.
The biggest risk is always the person taking on the task not being familiar and not having experience with that particular type of construction, probably. But that can be said whether you're a student or a registered architect or wherever you are in your architectural career, because If you simply haven't done something, you shouldn't be expected to know how to do it.
Whether big or small, architectural firms utilise similar procedures to mitigate risks, such as checklists, systems, protocols and processes. However, in small firms, as this hierarchy isn't as extensive, more time is devoted to risk management through relationships, whether it's with the client, consultant, contractor, or even the student.
Again, it's about having good systems though, so we ensure we meet with all of our clients weekly, so there's never a lull in communication with them.
Are you freaking out again? Don't worry, traditionally the practice of architecture has followed the format of the master and the apprentice. This relationship has waned in the recent past, but is now re-emerging through mentoring systems.
Students are part of the mix in the office, and they have a role to play on projects, but they're also here to learn, and that needs to be recognised. Whenever they're working on a project, they're not on the project by themselves. They're always mentored by different people in their experience level to suit that role.
So each project leader is on the job every day, presuming that the programs are continuing. The project leaders are directly responsible to both the client and often the board in terms of the financial viability of the job from the office point of view and delivery to the client. So consequently, they keep a very close eye on not just graduates or students, but the whole team in terms of their efficiency and their delivery dates and the quality of what they're delivering, so that technically it's up to scratch, that all the work is coordinated amongst ourselves, and then our work is coordinated with consultants and the client's requirements. So the project leaders are the linchpin of the whole office, and they are the ones that keep an eye on all the production of the staff on their teams.
What's assigning a senior person to basically overshadow or over review the students' work and help them along. Probably someone that has patience, has also equal enthusiasm, because there's no point having a grumpy old architect mentoring a bright young architect to be, because it doesn't really work.
So Jess comes and shadows me. We've got a couple of residential projects that we're certainly bringing Jess on board into a more senior role. So certainly having her attending all of our weekly design meetings with the client, so she's the second set of ears, hearing directly from the client what their expectations are and what changes are required to the designs.
Ultimately, buck stops with me, and I try to keep a pretty good eye on all documentation that goes out of the office.
Then even when students come in, if they know, oh, maybe I've made a mistake, that they feel they can come up and say, look, I think there's a problem here, how do we fix it? And I think that's something that we need to be able to foster, especially in an industry where we are taken to the wall if we make mistakes, especially architects.
Through ownership, relationships, communication, review and systems, you can help reduce the risk involved in being a student in such a litigious field. And you can carry forward into your career as an architectural professional.
When I grow up, I want to be just like you. Is it worth it?
So the risk is 100% worth it.
At the end of the day, when the projects are open and the tears of gratitude are running down the client's face, then it's worth it. Yeah, you get the buzz out of the big day, opening day, and you tend to forget all the late nights and the bleary eyes of checking drawings endlessly and meetings that you have to sit through. And when you get to the end of the project and you can see from inception to delivery, it's all been your own work. That really is worth it.
I think risk is definitely worth it. I mean, not everyone's cut out to take high risks.
The rewards are probably not there in any other monetary sense, but certainly the professional satisfaction is there, and that's why we're all here basically.
understand. No.